Albert McKnight. I believe that that God had a purpose in allowing our ancestors, African Americans, to be brought to this country in slavery, in the most inhumane kind of slavery for over 300 years. There was a purpose. And I think that I've always thought that I would live to see African Americans get themselves together to fulfill that purpose. And as we African Americans come out of the winter time that we have endured for 30 years and entering the springtime that we are about to fulfill that purpose by getting ourselves together. As African Americans, we are direct descendants of Africans, and our African ancestors built the greatest human civilization known in human history, the Nile Valley contribution to civilization that lasted for thousands of years. There's never been, since then, a civilization to last as long as they did. And they were able to last that long because they thought Afrocentrically, which is optimal psychology. European community just within the last 40 years have come to understand that our brain operates as if we have two different brains. What we call the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain. The left hemisphere of the brain is the rational and the scientific. It's the part of the brain that we can control. It's the part of the brain that Europeans use. And it's segmented psychology, which has brought us to the crises in the world today of destroying planet Earth that may not be able to continue supporting human life because we've treated it like a thing, inanimate object. Afrocentric thinking is the right hemisphere of the brain. In the right hemisphere of the brain, we cannot control. The right hemisphere of the brain is the intuitive, the spiritual, the mystical. But we cannot control it. It works on its own. But, there's a big but, it needs silence, meditation, and non-judgment. What is. And there's no optimal psychology, no Afrocentric thinking without the practice of silence. And as African Americans become aware and start getting into the practice of silence, it's in silent prayer without words or thought, we discover what we already have through the indwelling Spirit of God and our incorporation through baptism into Christ. You start where you are, deep in what you already have, and you realize that you're already there. We have everything, but we don't know it, and we don't experience it. All we need is to experience what we already possess. And it's in silent prayer, without words or thoughts, that we come to experience what we already possess, the God that lives within us. My identity is that I am of God, with God, for God. That identity, as Thomas Merton has tried to describe, is beyond all social fabrications. At the center of my being is a point of pure no-thingness, which is untouched by sin and by illusion. A point of pure truth that belongs entirely to God, which is not touched by our illusions or our will. And that little point of no-thingness and of absolute poverty is the pure glory of God in us. And I believe that we're at the point through the African-American Afrocentric spiritual renewal movement that we launched in July of 2011, that when we reach the point that we have 10,000 African Americans practicing at least an hour of silent prayer without words or thought a day, that we'll be able to change the world, because we live in a spiritual universe. David Bohm, a physicist, he hypothesizes that if you had this, because we live in a spiritual world, that the cosmos is alive. If we had as few as 10 people bonded together, being all that they were created to be, that 10 could create enough spiritual energy to change the moral corruption of centuries around. We're aiming at 10,000 because I've been seeking the 10, but found individuals, but the task has been bringing the individuals together. So instead of 10, right now, aiming, putting the intention out there, because again, we live in a spiritual world, in the spiritual laws of success, pure potentiality. What universe are you living in? If you're still living in the Newtonian way of thinking about the universe as a machine made up of parts, then, you know, that would be impossible. But realizing that we're living in a quantum universe, that the universe is alive. It's just the new cosmology. 70% of the universe is dark energy. They don't know what dark energy is, but they know the effect of dark energy that's causing the billions of stars, the billions of galaxies that have billions of stars at the horizon, expanding, rotating at 60,000 miles a second. How can something that huge move that fast? Dark energy. 25% of the universe is dark matter. They don't know, scientists don't know what that is, but they know the effect of it. That's what's keeping the galaxies and the group of galaxies, cluster of galaxies together, instead of just fling apart. Only 5% of the universe do we know something about. So we live really in a spiritual world, and the universe itself manifests all the signs of a self-organizing, living reality. So that I believe that with that pure potentiality, anything is possible that is possible can happen. And with the intention, desire of putting it out there, if we can get 10,000 African Americans practicing 1 hour of silence a day, put it out there, but be detached, least effort, the miracle will, what we would call a miracle, will take place. and African Americans will be the occasion of saving, I say, the world. So that's what I believe.
Thank you.
You know, I became, I wasn't always a Catholic. My family moved, we were living in Brooklyn. My family moved to Harlem, where my grandparents were. We lived in the same apartment building. And my grandparents were practicing Catholic. My mother was a Methodist, my father was a Falling Away Catholic. And my aunt had just graduated from the Catholic school, and of course my sister and myself, we were enrolled into the Catholic school, St. Mark's in Harlem, in the fourth grade. And had a couple of priests there that used to take us out a lot. And I just thought it was a good life. So that was my original drawing to the priesthood. It was a good life. And it has proven to be a good life. You know, I used to use the language that I've failed in everything I've tried to accomplish. And someone told me, change my language, so I failed in everything I tried to accomplish, but God had different plans. So what God wanted came about. So that, and I've had a very happy, fulfilling life. The only one bad experience I had, that I almost left the priesthood, was in the case of Holy Ghost in Opelousas, where the issue, for where the new 4 schools were going to be, and the bishop supported the white community and demanded that my provincial change me, and my provincial supported me. And that's why there's no Holy Ghost Fathers at Holy Ghost, because he refused to have another Holy Ghost Father there, because there was such an injustice. And that's why I started letting my beard grow. Because I'd let it grow until I get justice. Well, I know I'm not going to get justice at 84, so.
Some critical information. Your birthday?
August 1827.
Mother's name?
Althea Holmes Mcknight.
Father's name?
Albert Mcknight.